There he is. Mike.
What's up,
How are
Ariel?
you?
I'm good, buddy. How you doing?
Mike? What's the crack?
The crack is I'm here in Las Vegas, commentating tonight's fight card, and then the crack is I run straight over to the airport. I catch a red eye. I go via Detroit. I wait there for 2 hours. Then I get to Cleveland, and then the party starts.
Wow. That you know it's a big fight. You know it's a big event when the Count graces us with his presence. So he's doing UFC tonight, which you can watch on BT Sport, of course, in the UK. And then he'll be a part of the Jake Paul coverage against Tyron Woodley Sunday night on BT Sport box office. I'd be remiss, Mike, if I don't congratulate you on your new deal commentating for the UFC. You announced that earlier. Congratulations, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Ariel. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, I'm very happy. You know, I'm truly obsessed with the sport of mixed martial arts and combat sports in general, to be honest. So to be calling fights for another 4 years for the UFC, yeah, I'm very, very happy. But still, we're not here to talk about how great I am or potentially how great you are. But I appreciate it. I appreciate the heads up, the shout out, the congrats, whatever you may call it. It is appreciated.
Wow. Okay. Okay, let me ask you about that. That's a great starting off point. You talk about how you love the sport of mixed martial arts. You're obsessed with it. It's part of your identity. It's part of your life. Do you view this fight on Sunday, Mike, Tyron Woodley, former UFC welterweight champion, in my opinion, top 4 greatest UFC welterweight champions of all time, George St. Pierre, Matt Hughes, Kamaru Usman, Tyron Woodley. That's the Mount Rushmore right there. Do you view this as MMA versus boxing? Do you view Tyron Woodley as the representative of the great sport of mixed martial arts who's trying to go out there and defend our sport and shut up this kid, Jake Paul? Or is this just a fight? Is that making it out to be too big of a deal, the way I put it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it is. You are making too big of a deal of it there. And I know that's not what you think. You're just asking the question. I like Tyron Woodley, and I think he's a phenomenal fighter, but he had his time. You know, so right now it wouldn't be fair. You know, Jake Paul is 24 years old. Probably not even in his prime yet. I was going to say in his prime, but not in his prime yet. He's starting off his career. He's a young man. Tyron Woodley, I think he's 40 now, right? He's 40.
39.
39, pardon me. He's 39 years old. His best days are behind him. With respect, you know, now, of course, there's nothing to say that he can't win this fight and all the rest of it, but to say that we're sending over, the UFC or the MMA world, are sending over their best representative to take on Jake Paul, that's not accurate. We are sending over, we're sending over a highly accomplished fighter, a guy that had a great career, a guy that should be in the UFC Hall of Fame. But his best days are behind him, and I think that's not me being mean. It's just the way it goes. You know, you can't stay the champion of the world forever. You have your time in the sun. Hopefully, it lasts a long time, and then guess what? The sun goes down. Simple as that.
Okay, let me ask you this. Considering everything that you just said there, he is a former UFC champion. He's fought on the biggest of stages. He's fought at Madison Square Garden, et cetera, et cetera. He's defended the title. Jake Paul is 3-0. Against the likes of a YouTuber, Nate Robinson, and Ben Askren, who was done. Are you surprised that Jake Paul is not only the betting favorite going into this fight, Mike, but the line continues to grow in his favor?
It's insanity. It really is. You know, it is insanity. I honestly don't know what to expect from this fight. I don't know. Maybe Tyron goes out there and puts on an amazing display of violence and just destroys him and shows the world what a competent boxer he can be. Maybe shows the world that, hey, listen, he could have a career as a professional boxer going forward. Maybe Jake Paul goes out there and starches him with one punch. We just don't know. There's so many unknown variables. But that said, even though we have the unknowns, to have Jake Paul as the favorite, I find it's kind of ludicrous. It's kind of insulting to Tyron Woodley. I'm assuming that a lot of that is swayed because Jake Paul's a popular figure and he's got a lot of people putting money on him, you know, so we know how that works at the bookies. But yeah, no, it's a bit of a slap in the face for Tyron, I believe.
Okay, I also want to ask you about this because, as you know, let's call it like it is, Tyron hasn't looked great in his last 4 fights, right? He has lost 4 in a row, but worth noting, maybe to just the boxing fans here who don't know a lot about him, and yes, he hasn't won in 3 years, he has fought the very best welterweights in the world. Kamaru Usman, the current champion en route to maybe becoming the greatest welterweight champion. Gilbert Burns, #1 contender, right? Colby Covington, current #1 contender, and Vicente Luque, who's on a roll. Like, those aren't bums. Nothing to be ashamed of, but he did lose those fights. In 3 of those fights, he didn't even look like himself, right? It felt like he was stuck in neutral, like he was gun shy, like he just couldn't get off. Now, the Luque fight, the last fight, he was aggressive, felt more like the Tyron of old, but really that was his undoing because he ended up getting finished. I'm worried for his sake that if he was feeling out of his comfort zone in the sport in which he's most comfortable, how is he going to feel in a sport in which he is truly out of his comfort zone? Boxing is different than MMA, as you know. Are you afraid that the Tyron that we saw in those first 3 fights of the losing streak, where he couldn't get off, where he wasn't active, where he wasn't aggressive, is going to show up on Sunday night as well?
I definitely have some concerns, without question. You know, and the reality is, and again, I'm not trying to kick a man while he's down. And Tyron's not down. He's doing great things. You know, I mean, he's got a great rap career. He's making tons of money from this. So he's not down. You know what I mean? But I'm not trying to pour on the misery, if you will.
No, you're just telling you like it is.
But the reality is, Ariel, that even though he lost those 4 fights, prior to those fights, even the fights that he won, he never had the highest output. And then towards the end, in those last 4 fights, certainly, he was always just looking for that perfect shot. And people often say, you know, it's a gift and a curse when you knock somebody out with a right hand or a left hook or whatever it is, because then you hunt for it all the time. Towards the end, those last few fights, Tyron was just, he would always just, even when he fought Damian Maia, he just skirt around the perimeter of the octagon, looking for that one shot, looking for the perfect punch, and he never had a high output. And what he was doing there is, number one, he's not doing himself any favors because he's a boring style. But still, you know, you're letting the fight pull away from you. Your opponent's outworking you. They're getting ahead. They're getting takedowns. They're jabbing your face off, whatever it may be. And I am concerned that he's going to do that again against Jake Paul. Jake, as I say, because he's young, with youth comes ignorance. You know, like my kids, they go off and do the, well, not the oldest two, but Lucas, he's always doing stupid stuff because he doesn't know you can get hurt. You know what I mean? When you're younger, you're a little bit more ignorant, and he's undefeated. Okay, again, undefeated against scrubs, but still, when you're undefeated, you honestly feel you can beat anybody on the planet. He's the bigger guy, he's the younger guy, he's got all the hype around him. So I don't think Jake's going to be intimidated by the moment. In fact, I watched your face-to-face last night, and fantastic job, by the way. But you know, Jake seems to be in the driver's seat throughout all of this. So we could see Tyron go out there and absolutely destroy it. That is a very possible scenario. We could also see Tyron turn up and not really do much, you know? And that's why I'm not overly confident in picking Tyron as a winner.
One thing Tyron has going for him is the fact that he has gone 25 minutes multiple times on the biggest of stages, in title fights, Madison Square Garden, Las Vegas, pay-per-view, Anaheim. Jake Paul, for all the rounds that he has sparred, has never gone past the 2nd round of a boxing match, right? So we're talking 5 minutes total, right? However, yesterday, his head coach, his head trainer, Jake Paul's head trainer, BJ Flores, who's an accomplished former boxer himself, said, "We hope this fight goes longer. We think that he is going to get tired in the 1st or 2nd round. We want to show that we have the better cardio." Is that just a coach talking up his guy, or do you think there's something to that? Do you think that Tyron Woodley has cardio issues?
I don't think Tyron necessarily has cardio issues. Pushing 40, maybe they're starting to creep in. But for Jake Paul, I mean, his coach is going to say that. You know, your coach never comes out and says negative things about their fighter. Well, they shouldn't do anyway. Even if they have some concerns, you keep that to yourself. But the going into the later rounds is something that I am curious to see how Jake handles. Because, you know, I've given a lot of credit to Jake Paul for choosing to do this. You know, he has the fame, he has the fortune. You know, apparently he's a very wealthy man, you know, and generally that's what fighters are chasing. So he doesn't need to do this. But even though he has the money and he's training, is he truly pushing himself to the limit? Is he pushing himself to the brink of exhaustion? Is he running sprints and like almost throwing up, and his coach is on his case? Because it's easy to go out there for a round, for 2 rounds, for 3 rounds and look good. But are you getting out of bed at 6 a.m? Are you running hill sprints? Are you doing everything you can to be in the best possible condition? Because I learned it took me a while to figure out. I learned in the kickboxing fight that I had. Conditioning is one of the most important things to have in a fight. Once you get tired, it doesn't matter. This isn't a game of football. It's not a game of basketball. You can't hide. You can't drop back. It's you and your opponent and the referee. And once you get tired, it's the loneliest place in the world, because you've got an opponent that's trying to beat you up, trying to knock you out, do physical damage to you, and you literally can't even hold your hands up. It is a horrible feeling. And it doesn't matter how skilled you are. Once the cardio goes, you're in deep, deep trouble. And as Jake pushed himself, is he a victim of his own success? This is what I'm saying, as I said at the start of the live. There's so many questions here that we just don't know. Jake's unproven. Tyron is proven. You know, he's been there at the highest level, 100%. That cannot be doubted. But does he still have it? And has Jake ever had it? You know, these are the questions. Tyron might go out there and just wow the world. Jake Paul might knock him out with one punch and do what Ben Askren did. We just don't know. Or we could have 8 rounds of excitement. I hope we get that. I want to see a really good fight, but a lot of unknowns, Ariel.
Isn't it amazing that the last time we did this was before the Conor McGregor fight against Dustin Poirier, the trilogy in July, and we were talking about that very thing. Once you make that money, it's hard to pound the pavement at 6 a.m. Jake Paul is doing this the opposite way. He's coming into the sport with all the money. He's almost trying to like reverse the whole process and kind of break everything down to be a fighter who's now making, you know, big paydays. But mentally, like, this kid has been making money for the last few years. He's walking in. How rare is it for someone to be walking into the fight game as a multimillionaire already? So that's the thing that I'm wondering. Come the 5th round, come the 6th round, when he's staring at Tyron Woodley and he's like, what do I have to do to get this guy out of here? I wonder what's going to happen here, right? Then we're going to really find out if Jake Paul has it in him. And so let me ask you this, Michael, and it's a simple question. It might sound like a weird question. In your opinion means more than mine and anyone else's here. Is Jake Paul a fighter? Do you consider Jake Paul a fighter?
That's a good question, Ariel. And honestly, I could probably answer that after Sunday night, because right now I don't know. Right now, this could be a little hobby of his, a little stint, a little blimp in his life, you know, a little, you know, something on the timeline of his life.
Bucket list.
Because, yeah, you know, because it's cool. People see that, certainly with the growth of the UFC, and boxing is as popular as ever. People see it on TV, they want to do it. You know, there was a phase there, you know, and I know this is on the BT Sport Boxing, but obviously my background's in mixed martial arts. There was a phase there with the UFC, everyone's walking around with tap-out T-shirts and all the rest of it, and people see it on TV and it's cool, and they've all got the tattoos, and they used to have the mohawks and everything. They see it, and I see a lot of people now chasing careers in combat sports, whether it's boxing or mixed martial arts, that realistically shouldn't be there. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people, because it's not a game. And we're seeing a lot of TikTokers, and we're seeing celebrity boxing, and we're seeing there's 2 big, massive strongmen, the Mountain and someone else, I forget who it is. They're going to fight soon, you know, because, it's the latest craze. It's all fun and games, and it's great. And as men, they get to go train and they get to act tough for a little bit. Well, guess what? It's dangerous. Things can happen. Things can, you know, really go wrong. I can pop this eyeball out right now. I've got 2 fake knees. Do you know what I mean? It's not a game. And I do get a little bit annoyed when I see people approaching it from this entertainment aspect, because there is an honor in fighting. And I feel that sometimes we're getting away from that. So is Jake Paul a fighter? I honestly don't know. I don't know. There is, maybe he is. He talks like a fighter. He's saying the right things. Or maybe this is just a little phase for him, make some money, to use Tyron's term, get some clout. You know, I hate saying that because everyone says it, but still, you know, maybe just trying to get some clout, be cool, you know, take some pictures. Who doesn't want to jump on top of a ring when they've just knocked somebody out? Everybody wants to do that. When you see that on TV, when someone, like when I won the belt, you jump on top of the octagon or on the top rope, and you've just beaten your opponent, and there's 20,000 people there, and you're the center of attention. Who doesn't want to experience that? So, of course, Jake wants to experience that. Is he doing it because that looks cool, or is he doing it because he's a fighter? We don't know. When I was fighting, and I've always been a fighter from the day I was born, but even still, when I was fighting, I would push myself to the absolute limit, because I was always broke. Absolutely pissed broke. My mum had no money, but I remember having to go and, you know, knock her up at 6 a.m. and get her out of bed and say, Mum, lend me £5 so I can put some petrol in the car so I can drive to work. I never wanted to go back to that lifestyle. I got a little bit of taste of success, and I had money in the bank, and I was able to have nice things. I was able to pay the bills and just live a normal life and be happy. I never wanted to go back to being piss broke and bloody, going to work in my dirty clothes, coming back at the end of the day, absolutely exhausted. And for what? To still be broke at the end of the week. So that's what got me out of bed, running sprints, sparring hard, hitting pads with intensity, doing everything I could to get to the next level and to stay there. Is Jake Paul doing that because he hasn't got the same motivation? I assume the motivation that he has is because he fancies himself as a bit of a tough guy and he loves the attention. Well, that's not quite the same thing.
Is there not something to be said, though, for the fact that he has stepped through the ropes 4 times, once as an amateur, 3 times as a pro, regardless of opponent? You go through the process, you cut the weight, you fight any man. Doesn't that just make you a fighter? I've never done that, so I have respect for it. You've done it countless times. As a fellow fighter, as a former champion, can you not at least say, like, all right, man, you might not be doing this for the same reasons, you might not be coming from the same place that I came, but hey, respect, you stepped through those ropes, you got punched in the face.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And I do give him that respect. You know, if you look on my YouTube page, I did a video last night and I gave him a lot of credit for it because he doesn't have to do this. And it is tough. And Tyron Woodley's no walk in the park. And as we've seen, this has escalated this week and it's very, very personal. And you know Tyron's showing up. Tyron wants to do damage. And to be honest, Tyron's got a lot more pressure on him than what Jake Paul has. We've just talked about the money that he has. He doesn't really need this. Tyron needs this, okay? You know, and he's trying to reinvent himself as a boxer. He's trying to do away with the last 4 losses. He's trying to say to the world, hey, listen, and to any promoters out there, hey, I'm still a bookable guy. I'm still worth those big checks that you might send my way. But he's got to beat Jake Paul to do that. And if he doesn't do that, then Tyron Woodley, the fight is pretty much done because it's a big gamble. It's a good payday. By all accounts, the best payday of his life, and that's all well and good. But is it going to be the last one of his career? Because I tell you what, if he gets beat by Jake Paul, there ain't going to be many more offers. You know, so for Tyron coming into this one, I think we're going to see a very motivated Tyron, and we're going to see a lot. But also sometimes that can be your best friend and your worst enemy. Because the pressure, like you mentioned before with the Vicente Luque fight, he was under pressure there and he knew he had to come out and he had to swing. But that was kind of his undoing. You know, I say it all the time, this controls everything. It's a physical sport, but the mind, what is Tyron's mental state? Because Jake's, he's cool as a cucumber right now.
I'm so happy you said that about the pressure. I said it to Tyron. He disagreed. Honestly, I think all the pressure is on Tyron's shoulders. If Jake loses this fight, I just lost to a former UFC champion. It was just my 4th pro fight. No big deal. I don't know how Tyron can fight and be and again, this is not me knocking Jake. I consider him a fighter. But if you lose to Jake Paul at this stage of Jake's career as a former UFC champion, I don't know how you can continue. I feel like this is his chance to right the wrongs of the last 3 years. If he loses this fight, I mean, let's call it like it is. And correct me if you feel otherwise. Unfortunately, and I don't think it's fair, but unfortunately, the Askren fight kind of changes Askren's legacy, right? The way he looked, the shape he was in, and that's not fair. But I feel like now everyone talks about that when talking about Ben Askren. Maybe in 5 years that will change. It would be a travesty if this is in the first paragraph of Tyron Woodley's fight bio, the fact that he lost to Jake Paul. And that's why, to me, all the pressure's on his shoulders. He has to win this. Everyone is saying, you got to win this for us, for the MMA community. And by the way, isn't it amazing how they never treated Tyron with respect, the fans? They always, like, you know, wanted him to go away and all this stuff. And now everyone's like, how fickle are these fans? Do it for us, Tyron. Shut him up. Do it for the community. I mean, he has to just laugh at that. I find that laughable that they are now telling him, like, come on, Tyron, we want you to win. Do it for the MMA community. When he was champion, you know this, they treated him like crap, right?
Yeah, but Tyron would complain a lot.
He did complain. He says it himself. He brought it upon himself to a degree.
Yeah, he kind of did. But you're right. Listen, in combat sports, you're only as good as your last fight. And that's just the reality, you know. And for Tyron, you know, it seems like a lifetime ago since he knocked out Robbie Lawler, Josh Koscheck, had that good fight with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, because then it was Damian Maia, and then it was some other ones, and then the 4 that he lost in a row. So right now,
Darren Till.
The Darren Till fight was fantastic. I mean, that was a masterclass. It was 1 punch and a submission. I mean, that was fantastic. It really was. And in the world title fight. But he's lost 4 in a row. And if he loses to Jake Paul, unfortunately, you're only as good as your last fight. Simple as that. And in the history books, it will show world champion, lost 4 in a row to good people, then gets beaten by a YouTuber. The narrative will be, he's done. He's over. Jake Paul if he beats Tyron, then he's skyrocketing in terms of credibility, in terms of matchups and money fights going forward. And as you mentioned, if he loses, then no big deal. Whatever. It's my fourth fight. I went up against a champion. In fact, even if he loses, everyone will give him props. Wow, man, you really went for it. You really challenged yourself. And in terms of the MMA community, well, yeah, because Jake Paul's being smart. I got to stop saying Jake Paul. Just call him Jake. We're on first name terms. Jake Paul, Logan Paul, KSI. I know far too many YouTubers. I'm just saying. What is it? What was I saying? Oh, yeah. He picked Ben Askren, and everyone was like, this is the representative of the MMA community. I think I was the only person to say Ben Askren's going to lose. Ben Askren was a smart pick. That was genius, and he was never a representative of the MMA community. I'm sorry. No chance. No chance. And Tyron, again, this is really, really smart. Now, careful what you wish for, because Tyron can knock him out. But again, he's picked a guy with a lot of credibility who is sadly on the big downslide. He's like, in terms of slide downs, it's like when you go on a roller coaster and you get to the top. Oh, he's on that big one. He's going down. But guess what? When you go down, what goes down must come up on the roller coaster. He can turn it around big time. Wow, what a terrible analogy.
No, I get what you're saying. It almost feels like they're meeting at some point at the, one guy's going like this, the other one's going like this. Another thing I like about Jake Paul, I like the fact that he talks about fighter pay, whether he's being disingenuous or not. I think he's speaking a lot of facts, and I give him respect for that. There was once a time, Mike, I'd love if you can clear this up for us. There was some rumors that you were in talks to fight him. Was that legit, or was that just like BS?
I think he just used my name again to get clout, to say that, because Audie, my manager from Paradigm, he called me one day. He said, there wasn't there wasn't like a contract offer or anything like that, but there was an email or a phone call. I forget the form of communication, but he said his people have been in touch and they made an offer of some money. And I don't think it was serious, but I said, all right, we'll double it, see what they say. Let's see if they're serious. You know what I mean? So I think they offered me $500,000. I said, say we'll consider it for $1 million. But I was never like, ooh, I'm fighting Jake Paul. I was like, let's just see how serious they are. And anyway, they never came back. Nothing was ever said. Then me with my big mouth. Obviously, I talked about it on my podcast. So he got exactly what he wanted. But, that wouldn't be a good idea for Jake Paul.
If he wins, do you want him? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm retired. I'm retired.
Right. I thought we were going to build something here, Mike. Okay. So then let me ask you this. I spoke to the family, Rebecca, Callum, everyone. They told me that when Love Island is on, they cannot bother you. Like, you are locked in. You watch. You've binge watched twice, beginning to end. You love Love Island, and you love Tommy Fury and Molly May. You are a huge fan. Fact or fiction?
Oh, man, I love it. I never miss an episode. I mean, other than the fact that we can't get it in America.
No, Netflix. You can get it on Netflix.
Oh, really? Do you know what, actually? I did watch one episode. One episode, and I was aghast with horror at what I was. Well, Rebecca was like my wife, for those that don't know. She's like, turn this off now. But when you car crash TV, you can't turn it off. I'm like, no, this is great. This is so good.
See?
Yeah, but no, just that one episode. But it was Love Island Australia, actually.
Oh, okay. So not the Tommy Fury one. What do you think of Tommy Fury? I mean, Mike, one of the best looking human beings I've ever laid eyes on. I mean, I have to say, he is incredible, this man. Have you seen him? How is he related to Tyson Fury? I don't understand it. They look like two different species.
I'll be honest, I was led in bed last night watching one of his fights, and I was thinking the same thing. He is a handsome devil. And have you seen the physique on him? My God, he's got quite the physique on him. He really has. And I tell you what, I watched the fight last night. I forget who it was against. Someone Smith, I think. Anyway, I was very impressed with what I saw. You can still see that he's very raw. He's definitely still, finding his groove. But he had all the tangibles that you need. Obviously, beautiful face, hell of a physique. But he was aggressive. He looks to be in great, he looks to be a good athlete. He was very aggressive. He had good speed. He was confident. He wasn't in control of his range a little bit. He would go forward a little too aggressive, and every time he was falling into a clinch and things like that. But the raw ingredients, what you need to be a successful boxer or a fighter, are definitely on display. you know, and obviously he's still pretty young in his career, so you know he's going to get better and better, you know, and it's what you should see from someone starting their career. You don't expect to see, you know, a bloody Canelo in there or a Manny. He's still relatively a novice in his pro career, but I was very, very impressed. High output, good shot selections, working the body, and as I say, very confident as well. As I say, man, those deltoids, what a physique!
Amazing. And he is a big boy. He's fighting a guy named Anthony Taylor, who's a former MMA fighter, fought for Bellator, 7-5 as an MMA fighter, has fought as low as 135. This fight's happening at 180, so a bit of a mismatch. But the talk is if Tommy wins and if Jake wins, they'll match up. You have to run. I have to run. Weigh-in's going on at 10 p.m. UK time on the BT Sport YouTube channel. Final word. Can you make a prediction, or are you abstaining? Are you going to make one?
I'll make a prediction. Tommy Fury wins. Daniel Dubois wins. Can't believe we aren't mentioning this guy. This guy, the future of the heavyweight division, maybe. Jake Paul might win. He very possibly might win. Oh, God. Is Tyron going to see this?
No, he's not.
Jake Paul wins.
Okay. There it is. And yes, shout out to Dynamite Dubois. I'm a big fan of his, and I look forward to seeing him in his American debut, for one Tommy Fury. Good luck on the call tonight, Mike. Great doing this with you. Hope to see you out there in Cleveland tomorrow.